each participant ID, please use your real name following with your origin of institution. All of participants are expected to mute and only unmute the video during the event. We cordially invite you to take your own firm and comfort seat in your own room and please avoid the backlight. Make sure that you have a good and stable internet connection. If you have an earphone or headset, we recommend you to use it so that your voice can clearly and loudly to be heard. During the Q&A discussion session, all participants, please use the chat box to deliver the questions. Thank you for your cooperation and consideration.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our researcher and research student enrichment program today. Before we start our agenda, let me inform you about the important information today. The first is please fill the attendance form on this link bit.ly/attendance _R2SEP 2021, and the link will be closed in 15 minutes. And the second one, please fill the feedback form and will be shared 15 minutes before the session ends and closed after 1 hour. And also the attendance and feedback form is compulsory for this purpose. First, mandatory attendance for ITS masters and doctoral students new intake. And for international participants can get certificate of participation from this event. And for ITS and the graduate students can get the stamp for it from this event. Again, welcome to Researcher and Research Student Enrichment Session on today, Thursday, 15 April 2021. I am Angie from IS Polban Catchment and will be a master of ceremony for this session. Again, I will remind you, don't forget to fill your attendance at bit.ly/attendance R2SEP 2021 that will be sent by our committee in the Zoom chat room, and the link will be closed in 15 minutes from now. And participants who wish to ask questions during the question and answer session, please send your questions at bit.ly/soft ENGKNA _R2SCP 2021 that will also be sent by our committee via Zoom chat room. And before we start our agenda, allow me to deliver our schedule today. First is opening, second continued by the introduction to the moderator and speaker, and the next is lecture session as our main agenda, followed by the Q&A session, and will be continued by certificate awarding, and the last is closing. And before we move on to the next agenda, please allow me to elaborate about today's lecture. Today's lecture theme in the hard engineering stream of R2SCP is about literature review, latest tools and methods, which will be delivered by our speaker, Associate Professor Nur Haslinda Kamarudin from University Technology Maram, Malaysia, and Bu Aida Anissa Amindama, Master of Technology, will be the one conducting today's session as our moderator from ITS. And before we go to the main agenda, let me inform you the short profile of our moderator today. As you can see with the full name, Aida Anissa Amindaman, Master of Technology from ITS, as a lecturer at Department of Mechanical Engineering ITS, and she got the master in mechanical engineering at ITS and some research interest on vibration, energy, suspension system, vibration absorber, and vibration damper. Okay, that's all about the short profile of Bu Aida. Without any further ado, let's proceed to the main agenda. To Bu Aida, the time is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Angie, for the introductions. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your attendance in this R2SEP program. And good afternoon to Professor Nur Haslinda Kamarudin. How are you? It's my honor to meet you today in this occasion. Okay, before we listen to the presentation from Professor Nur Haslinda, allow me to read the profile of Associate Professor Nur Haslinda Kamarudin. Professor Nur Haslinda Kamarudin is from University Technology Mara, Malaysia. She got bachelor degree in information technology in computer science, University Kebangsaan Malaysia. And then in 2005, she got her master degree of software engineering in University Malaysia. And then for doctoral degree, she got PhD in computer engineering of Nanyang Technology University in Singapore. And for her professional experience, from 2018 to present, she is an associate professor at University Technology Mara. She became a senior lecturer at University Technology Mara from 2013, and then she started a lecturer from 2011. In 2012, she was a member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, and then maybe it's 2008 until present. She is a member of International Society for Computers and their Applications. And then she is a member of Persatuan Capaian Maklumat dan Pengurusan Pengetahuan in Malaysia. And for her research interests, she studied about computational intelligence, and then emotion recognition, data analytics, and neural network. Okay, as we know, literature review is one of the important things that needed in writing of paper or conducting a research. So we hereby will listen the brief explanation from Professor Nur Haslinda Kamarudin about the latest tools and method in literature review for about maximum 60 minutes. And then before we listen to Professor Nur Haslinda, I remind the participants, you can write your questions in the link that's sent in chat box, or you can ask directly after the presentations by clicking raise hand menu. Okay, without further ado, Professor Nur Haslinda, time's yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good evening. Today is our third day of Ramadan. I hope that all of you bear with me. I think it's going to be like another 2 hours before iftar. So bear with me. We are going to have a very, I hope it will be very fruitful, because this is something that I would say that as a researcher, this is very crucial. All of us will basically have to do literature review, but allow me to share the experience. I'm not saying that I'm the most expert one here, but what I'm saying here is that why don't we learn from each other so that not only I will get it, I will give the knowledge, but I will also love to hear from you your experience of doing literature review. Okay, without further ado, my name is Associate Professor Dr. Hasrina Kamarudin. My PhD is from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. Basically, I'm doing computational intelligence. So my research basically is a combination of computer science, engineering, as well as psychology. But later, I will basically talk more on the research as we go along with the presentation. So let me share my slide so that I can continue our discussion. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yes, Prof. I
Alright.
can.
Okay, let me run. Okay, this is me. Now, what I'm going to talk today is about literature review. So usually we are talking when we talk about literature review, all of us will say that, oh, what is this? It's a mental torture. Why it is so? Because it's like so many things we have to do in a very short time. So when you go and see your supervisor would say, yeah, this is the title. I want you to do this. You read this. At the end of this week, I want you to produce this. So that is typical. Every one of us are actually guilty of guilty of that, including me. Sometimes I do that too to my student. Sometimes I forget that I used to be a student as well. So this kind of thing is actually make student feel like, oh, I just hate literature review because it is very difficult. So why we have this kind of mental state? This is because most of the time we don't have idea what to write. We heard from our seniors it's difficult. We get from even our lecturers say that it is difficult. Everybody say it's difficult. So we start to feel, what I'm going to do? I have a final year project or scriptsy, or some of you may do your master or PhD. So we are not sure what to write. So we don't have idea. This is where the mental blocks start to come in. We think it is difficult. We think it is boring because, well, we do not know much about the project. Suddenly you ask to write about the project. So what are we going to write about it? So we do not know where to start. We go to Google and we start to read so many things at so short time, we start to freak out. I mean, this is always the problem. When you are confused, you go and see your supervisor. Today, your supervisor said, okay, please read about A. Then you go and read about A. Then suddenly you said that, okay, it's not good enough. Then you go and see your supervisor again. Then suddenly your supervisor start talking about B. And at that time, you already studied about A. Then the other week, he start to talk about C. So the title keep on changing. The content keep on fluid, make you feel the uncertainty. Because, okay, this is another issues. In Malaysia, we are actually go and have scopers paid by the government. But there's one time that this scopers is being stopped. So then you have to pay certain amount of money to access this content. So this is another stumbling block, making us feel and fear literature review. Of course, most of the content is in English, and we feel that our English is not good enough. We may not be able to understand what is being described by the paper. So all of this, and of course, the usage of the jargon, okay, the technical jargon, make it more, I would say, challenging for us. It's not saying that we cannot do that, but I think we think that it is quite challenging for us. And because of this, we start to fear literature review. because we think that it is difficult. I don't have enough resources to do it. I mean, don't come and tell me that. Usually, when we go and start our study, we are so pumped up, full of adrenaline. We want to do this. We want to do that. We want to do a lot of things. This is my own experience. When I start doing my PhD in Nanyang Technological University, I want to do a lot. What I want to do is that my study is actually about how to make computer have emotion. So basically, I get the input from two sources. At that time, the idea is to take from facial expression and from speech. So when I start going, digging and studying, I start to feel that this is just too much. I cannot do it. So this is where you have to have a supervisor to guide you. So at the end, actually, my PhD is just on speech emotion, but not on facial recognition. So later we will talk about this more. This is, as I said, that if I'm going too fast, if I'm going too slow, please let me know. And participant, please feel free to communicate with me to make this session interactive. So at the end of this session, I would expect that all of us should be able to know what is LR, citation and reference, how we should go and do our searching techniques. So what are the techniques that we can use for literature review? So from the papers that we read, how can we identify the problem statement, method and finding? And of course, last but not least is what would be the available tools that we can use to help us in doing literature review. So some of us may say, just read. What is so difficult about it? Now, bear in mind, there's a lot of data out there. So this is why literature review is very important, because you want to incorporate new things, because we are not the one who knows everything. So we want to know what have other people done. We have this problem. We want to know the solution, but our solution may be different from others. And because of this, we want to actually take a look at other people, how they do it, how they solve the problem. So, because at the end of the day, there is no point to reinvent the idea, because if I have done the solution, why you should copy my solution? You should improve the solution, because improving the solution will get better results. And bear in mind, be careful, yeah? If you want to claim someone else's work, this is called cheating or plagiarism. So this is a very major offense in academics. So therefore, if you want to use certain work from other people, cite them properly, put the citation, so you are actually adopt and adapt from this particular work. So why literature review? Because we want to actually demonstrate your familiarity with the topics and scholarly context. Saying that we want to show that we have done our due diligence, we have done our homework, we have studied, other people have done this, we know that. So we want to show that we have read, we are aware of the solution. And then when we want to do our solution, of course, we have to develop a theoretical framework. Theoretical framework is a combination of theory and concept that can actually help us to make a decision, to make a solution. Whereas methodology is step-by-step activities that we can do to make sure that we can actually achieve our objective. We also want to position ourselves in relation to other researchers and theorists. So are we contributing to the body of knowledge? Can we actually develop new novel content? And at the end of the day, we want to show how our research address to a gap or contribute to a debate. Because whatever that we do, we want to actually solve a problem, not to create more problems. So I think this is very common. Before we go further, we need to know what is literature. It is the art of written work, and some circumstances refer exclusively to published resources. So we can basically list all known methodologies or approaches that solve the same problem. This is because we want to show that we have done our due diligence looking at the other solution. Because we don't want, in Malaysia we call it syok sendiri. We don't want to be, so proud that we think that we are the only one who know the solution. So because at the end of the day, if we think of the solution, other people may think of the same too. So that's why with the combination of knowledge, it would make the knowledge better, the solution better. And we also want to take some quotation from different sources about the same problem of ideas. It can come from paper-based, online, or other reliable material. So where do I start? A lot of things, online, offline. I can even do interview with other people. So basically, the first step, you have to search for relevant literature. You have to define your topic. Defining topic means you need to basically sit down with your supervisors. I'm not saying that you should rely too much on your supervisors, but for the first part, you have to discuss with supervisors. You have to tell him or her what you want to do. What are the problems that you want to solve? What are the level of commitment that you are willing to do? So this kind of thing is important to build a good relationship with supervisors. Then you have to develop your research problem and question. A research problem and question is very much dependent on your field, your domain. Some people may want to read first, then only they find the gap. Some people may want to observe. They see a problem, then they want to solve a problem. So there's a lot of way for you to actually go and come up with a research problem. But bear in mind, whatever thing that you have in mind, please, 3 times as I said, please discuss with your supervisors. And of course, from this topic, from the problem, you will get relevant keywords. Okay, from the relevant keywords, of course, you will do the search. Okay, let us look at this title. So these are all the titles I've done actually. So in your opinion, okay, the first title is Cultural Dependency Analysis for Understanding Speech Emotion. Okay, what would be the relevant keyword? Maybe anybody want to, answer me? In your opinion, what would be the good keyword for this, for the first title? Anybody, please? Ataupun sudah petang ya, sudah mahu iftar, jadinya kurang mahu berbual dengan saya. Silakan.
Okay, for participants, any answer for the question from Professor Nur Haslinda?
Cultural dependency and speech emotion, I guess.
True? Very good. Any answer? So that we can actually discuss rather than me talking very late in the evening. If I may call Afifatul Jannah. I like the name. Afifatul Jannah. What do you think would be the logical keyword actually?
There were answers in the chat box.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
Haslinda.
Oh, sorry. I do not see the chat. Yeah, correct. So, yes. Thank you very much. Yep. This is correct. We can actually, okay, Fabi, very good. We can have speech emotion. We can also have dependency analysis. We can also have cultural as well. All right. Thank you, Nastiti. Correct. This is also good. Yes, speech emotion, affective model, social media, EEG signal classification. Okay, this is already advanced. You already answered the second question. Yeah, the first, of course, the most important one is speech, emotion, culture, and so on. Very good. So what I'm saying here is that each and every word can be used as your keyword. So actually, let's say if you are blank, you do not know what should be the keyword. Each and every word in your title can be the keyword. Then you combine them. For example, for this, the keyword is actually, the first one is speech, because speech is different from speech emotion. Why it is different? Because speech can be without emotion. So now if you want to focus more on emotion inside the speech, then we have speech emotion. Then we also have cultural. So what kind of cultural analysis that we can have? We have a lot. We can actually talk about facial expression. We can talk about gestures. For example, Malay are more, I would say, soft-spoken compared to the Chinese, because the Chinese use a higher tone of speech. So all of these can be used. And if we take a look at the second title, of course, it is very clear that we will have EEG. EEG is actually one of the way to get the brain signal that we put the electrode in our scalp. Then for the third one, of course, we have social media, depression, so sentiment analysis. So these are the words that we can use to do the relevant search. So we can also do the search in a lot of spaces. For example, you can go take a look at the paper. But right now, the orang muda, they don't like paper-based. They would like online. So be careful if you are using online. Sometimes we tend to take from website that are dodgy. For example, in Malaysia, there is one website, we have Siakap Keli that talk about a lot of artists over there. So we cannot quote this kind of source. It must be, the information cannot be hearsay. It must be solid. So this is some of the website that all of you must be very familiar with. Okay, we have Scopus, we have Web of Science, we have Google Scholar. This is the easiest and this is free. And of course, our best friend Google. ResearchGate is quite okay. Academia also, but the most easiest one is Google Scholar. That is the most easiest one. But I'm not going to talk about it. What I'm saying here is that we have a lot of information that we can gain from all these websites. So be careful. You have to look for reliable material. That material has been edited and or approved by known publisher or other reputable organization. And it is not meant just text. You can have video, graph, figures, and so on. And of course, if you are in doubt, you have to actually check the source thoroughly or ask your supervisors. So tips for searching. So as I said, usually when we start embarking on a project, we are not sure what we want to do. We know what we want to do, but we do not know how to go there, how to finish the project. So of course, you start to scope whatever that you read. So for example, you want to do about effective computing. So you have to start to list down all the keywords. Emotion, mental health, behavior, brain, gestures, facial expression, speech. So all of this, you need to list down them. Then you start to do the log. Search one by one. Okay, another example that I'm going to give you is that this is actually my PhD title, Cognitive Inspired Speaker Affective State Profiling. What I'm doing is actually, I want to actually, from speech, I want the computer to know what is my emotion. Why I want to do that? Because we want to make the computer as human as possible. Because as human, we know the emotion based on the speech. Even if I do not know the language that you've spoken to, even I do not see your face, even if just hear from phone, I know whether you are angry. I know whether you're happy. So these are the kind of thing that I want to do to make sure that the computer understand emotion. So when I read this, so these are the kind of categories and feel that I can actually look into in more detail. For example, affective state. Affective state can be emotion. Affective state can be mood. Affective state can be feelings. So you have to be able to identify all this. Then speaker is the one who speak. So all of this, you need to categorize them so that you can get a better idea of the project that you are doing. So another way of doing searching of the data is basically rating the papers. Some of you may think that this is tedious, but actually it is not, because it will help you a lot, because we don't want to spend time reading too much. Okay, because we want to filter the information that we read. For example, we have 5 papers here. So the I would say the relevance is here. Document 1 is 6%, document 2 is 7%, document 3 is 0%, document 4 is 8%, and document 5 is 4%. So some of you may ask, how do you know of the percentage? This is by skin reading. Skin reading is you just flip through very quickly. And of course, when you flip through very quickly, you want to actually capture the abstract. Abstract is the first thing you should read. You read the abstract first, then you also read the conclusion. If it matches with what you need, then only you go deeper. You start to read the introduction. You start to read the methodology. You start to read the results and discussion. That is what we call as a very quick flip through test. Then one, it is very, very relevant to you. Then only you start to read thoroughly. And of course, when you start to read thoroughly, this is another way of doing LR that I think are very, very helpful. If you print them, organize them in file. For example, this is about speaker. You put one file as speaker. Another one is about effective computing. Put another file of effective computing. Why? Because it may help you easier finding the file. Because as you go doing your study or your research, you will read a lot. And if you are not meticulous enough, it will be very difficult for you to find the content. This is what I always told my students. Please do a mind map. Okay, please do a mind map. The mind map is actually will show you which component you have read and which you have not. And by doing this, you can actually channel and structure your work rather than going all the way to place. So this is very methodological way of doing literature review. Then after you go and identify what are the sources that you want to use, these are the questions that you need to actually know explicitly. What question is addressed? What are the key concepts? What are the key theory and method? What are the results and conclusion? How does it relate to one study to another? What are the key insight and argument, and what are the strengths and weaknesses of the research? Looks a lot, but actually you can summarize it like this. Make a comparative table. You put the number here, you put the paper. Of course, authors and year. This one is depending on what kind of citation that you are using. What are the data that is being used? The methodology. What are the results? Then of course the discussion. Whether the result good enough or not. Whether you want to actually use the methodology, use the approach, and so on. This should be put in a table. Most of the time, this is just based on my experience. Students don't like to do this because they think that this is tedious. But let me tell you, when you start doing this in a table, you can actually see the paper in more easier way. Because sometimes when you read, you think you understand, but actually sometimes you lost in the middle. So putting data like this will actually help you to guide you what the paper is all about. What to use? It can be, you can do it in Word. You can do it in Excel, up to you, as long as you read. Even during my time, I like to write actually. I put it in my logbook. Why I put it in my logbook? Okay, just to share with you my experience, because my supervisors sometimes have a very high level thinking. So because of that, he start to have, so many ideas, and I have to cope with him. And because of that, I need to write it down, because otherwise I may lose the train of thought. Okay, so this is something that I always advise my student. When you come to see me, please bring your logbook. Because why? Because today I may say, okay, I want A. Tomorrow I forget. I mean, I see something, I did go and discuss with my subordinate, and oh yeah, maybe solution B is better. So I discard A. Remember, you are the one who have to do A and B. So that's why write, record it. If you don't like writing, record it. Now our smartphone has the recording function. You can actually record it, and it actually helps you a lot. Right. Then you need to identify the themes, debates, and gaps. Okay. You want to know the trend in the literature. Okay. Previously, how it is done. Currently, how it is done. Okay. Just to give you some example, yeah. Just to give you some hint of my age actually. I finished my S1 degree in 2001. Okay, I finished my degree in 2001. Then now is 2021. So it is 20 years gap over there. So I did my degree, my S2 master, and S3 PhD. So over the years, the trend is different. During my time, we don't have Facebook, we don't have Instagram. Okay, at my time, we have MCQ, IRC. So these are the kind of chatting that we have. Yahoo group at that time. Friendster, I think some of you may not even know what I'm talking about. Then we start to have Facebook. But now even my daughter don't like Facebook. They said that Facebook is for old people like me. They go for Instagram. So this trend is different depending on the year. So that's why you need to find how the people actually solve the problem. So of course, we will have key themes. When we have key themes, for example, it is very much dependent on your project. I'm not saying that we can actually find it easily. Just read 10 papers, you can find the key theme. But actually, it is recurrent theme. If a lot of people talking about the same thing but different approaches, it means that we may find something that worth study for. But of course, there must be a debate and disagreement. Some people may agree that rice is nice. Some people will say that rice is not nice. It makes you fat. So as I said, these debates and disagreement is important because we want to see from both sides, the positive side and the negative side. Then we need to take a look at the pivotal publication. What is pivotal publication? Pivotal publication means that the importance publication. How to know whether the publication is important or not? This is where we go to our Google Scholar. We take a look at the paper that is influential. If the paper has a lot of citation, it means that the paper is influential. You can also go to WOS or ISI, no problem. But why I'm talking about Google Scholar? Because Google Scholar is free and it is easily available. So that's why I said, if you have time, go and search the paper that relevant to your field that you want to work. And then you will see that the most top one would be the highest one that will always being cited. And this is what we call as pivotal publication. And from this, maybe you can find a research gap. So just to show you, This is one of the tool that is provided by Google. This is called Google Trend. So I did some quick search last night about mental health. And in the US, for the past 12 months, these are the kind of interest about Google Trend. This is available and this is free. So you can actually go and take a look at the field that you want to study. Then they also show you the related topic. So this is, for example, like this, coping, telemedicine, emotional well-being, self-clinical mental health counselor. So these are also what we are saying that can be used as keyword that we want to actually develop our literature review. But as I said, the comparative table that I showed you just now is very, very important. That can, when you start to dissect the paper in more thorough, you can actually see which paper is good, which paper is not good. Then you can actually focus on your literature review. So you can, not you can, you must outline your structure. Okay, how you want to outline your structure? It can be chronological, based on time. It can based on thematic, okay, based on thema. It can be methodological. Methodological, for example, you are using classifier neural network. Then another one, random forest. Then another one, maybe statistical approach. So different methodological way you are actually combining or putting them together. Or you can also based on the theoretical outlook. And this is where you have to write your literature review. You have studied a lot, you have read a lot, you find a lot of papers that may actually help you writing your literature review. But this is where the challenge come in. How to write your literature review. So of course, in a literature review, you must have three components. First, you must have introduction, because you want to give a purpose why you are doing the literature review. Then of course, have the body. This is where you have the analyzing literature. This is where you also have a lot of supportive document. And then you want to conclude your literature review by saying that based on my observation, I want to use this methodology because of what? And this is supported by who? So those kind of literature review should be done. Okay, when you write your literature review, it will take time. Don't get upset if it got rejected. You must complete several drafts. But if you have a very good literature review, you can actually publish it. A review paper can actually, you can publish a review paper. And as I said, a good literature review is actually very helpful for you to actually answer other thing. For example, you have to choose this approach, and based on the approach that you choose, these are the support by other researcher. So your examiner cannot ask again because you have done your homework. So of course, an introduction must tell the reader what are you going to cover, the scope of your research, and how the review ties in your own research topic. Okay, this is a very good example. Yeah, this is a good example of writing an introduction. So the first one, you give the generic sentence. So for example, the red color, although the literature cover a wide variety of theories, this review will focus on 5 major themes will emerge repeatedly throughout the literature review. So then it will show the green color are the 5 themes to be covered. Self-concept, internal forces, and so on. Then we scope them, we focus them. Although the literature presents this theme in a variety of contexts, this paper will preliminarily focus on the application to self-motivation. So this is saying that, so first we make it broad, then we scope them to what we want the attention of the reader. Then after the introduction, we have the body. The body is actually to support whatever that we have said. So of course, you must have the main idea. You must have also support from other researcher. Then you need to actually have your own word as well. You cannot just quote other people's work without adding your own input, because this is not summary. It must be critical review. Then, of course, from one paragraph to another paragraph, it must be a continuation. You cannot cut, paste here, then you cut another paper, put in there. It doesn't work like that. It must have a continuation from top to the bottom. Let me show you one example, good example actually. So the first one is actually outlining the claim or key point. Most early theories of motivation were concerned with need satisfaction. Then who support? Robin, Millett, Capiochi, And then it is also similarly the early theories of Maslow and McGregor. Okay, this is actually support whatever that you are saying. And then we have, however, this is contrasting theories from research. Why we want to contrast? Because we want to see from both sides, positive and negative. Why we want to see both sides? Because we want to show that we have done our due diligence. We have done our homework. We have taken a look at all the, voices out there. And then current thinking does not discount these theories, but simply build on them to include self-concept. This is actually to conclude sentence because you want to talk about self-concept in the next paragraph. So as I said, one paragraph to another paragraph must have continuation. If your paragraph don't have continuation, most likely the reader will think that you are actually cut and paste from the paper to your thesis. So this is bad for your thesis. So this is where the student analysis will be integrated. So the first one, okay, we have discussed this. The blue color is actually the voice of the student. It can be argued that desire to improve one's status is highly motivational fast. So this is based on your observation. So this is how you should write your literature review. So there's a lot of verbs that we can use for referencing. Suggest, argue, content, outline, focus, define, conclude, state, maintain. And then we also have found, assert, show, claim, observe. So all of these can be used actually for our literature review. I mean, don't always write so and so reported that. When you start to use reported, it is a descriptive way of doing things. So when you start to describe, sometimes it sounds like a summary rather than a literature review. So because literature review is not a summary. So this is an example for poor writing in LR. Okay, as I said, okay, avoid using words like are reported because this often lead to descriptive writing. Okay, so here are they. So their findings are reported here. Okay, then you will actually have a paragraph to describe Smith model. Then you also said that what Jones said, and all of this will just describe. But you are actually want to synthesize and evaluate because you want to give your opinion. You want to actually give a argumentative essay because this is how we will have our literature review. It is not just a summary. So this is another good example. Okay, this is another good example for writing literature review. So saying that, for example, like this, yeah, it integrate the research in various authors. The more you read, the more we can see that you have done your homework. We can also see the similarity and dissimilarity, and you start to have analysis and critical evaluation. Okay. This is where I want to take your attention. Right. I got this in Facebook actually. I think it's very useful. I use it also. And I think it is interesting the way that he shown how to write a literature review. He said that literature review can be written as a gossip. Okay, this is in Bahasa, but I will translate it into English so that you get the gist of it. Weh, aku dengar daripada Rabiatul yang Izani ni ada 4 awek. Awek is actually girlfriend. Weh, I heard from Rabiatul that Izani got 4 girlfriend. So, when you put it in literature review way, according to Rabiatul 2021, Izani has 4 girlfriend. So, ada gossip ya. Itulah pasal Siti, Maria pun Alex kata benda yang sama. That's why Siti, Maria and Alex also talk about the same thing. So, how you want to translate this into literature review? This can be supported by Siti, Maria and Alex. Then it can be combined to another gossip. Nak buatkan cerita, Hana kata Izani kahwin salah satu, tapi duk skandal lagi dengan yang lagi 3 tu. In English, I would say that Hana said that Izani got married with another one, but he got another scandal with another 3. So, you can write it in this way. In placing more emphasis, Hana claimed that Izani is actually married, but is still very close to the other 3 women. Yeah, a lot of people also talk about it. Faris said the same, Fikri said the same, Laila said the same. Randy, Victor, Brandon and Jannah also said the same. Okay, in Bahasa it said that, yeah, lama juga yang cerita pasal tu. Faris cakap yang sama, Fikri cakap yang sama, Laila cakap yang sama, and so on. So you can write it in this way. This claim can also be supported by similar research done by Faris, Fikri, Laila, Randy, Victor, Brandon and Jannah. Betul, Randy dengan geng lah ni. Diorang nampak kot Izani lepak dengan skandal dia kat Pevi is Pavilion. Yeah, correct. Randy and his gang, they saw Izani dating with the scandal at Pavilion. So when you put it in academic way, furthermore, in an observation-based study by Randy, the findings have shown that Izani seen with another woman in Pavilion. So the next one, it is correct what Izani's ex said before, Lisi. Lisi said that 5 years ago, Izani will never change. Once a player, always a player. So when you put it in a very nice way of literature review, it can be done like this. This study have found a similar result where Izani is not a loyal man, as eloquently quoted by Lacey 2021. Once a player, always a player. See, what I'm saying here is that writing literature review can be fun, provided that you know what you are doing. Okay, it can be fun. For example, like this example I get from Facebook. This is very funny actually, but when you put them together, it makes sense. It sounds academic. So there's another example here, but I'm not going to read it all. But what I'm saying here is that these are some kind of literature review that will make you excited of writing. Literature review shouldn't be taken as something boring. You cannot, you should actually start to love it, because as a researcher, as a student, this is part and parcel of your life. You cannot run from literature review. No matter what, no matter if you even have your PhD, let's say you are being a lecturer, you have to do literature review if you want to do research. So again, as I said, you must find some creative way to write your literature review, because it will attract people to read your paper. And when people are attracted to read your paper, you will get more citation and you will be prominent researcher in your field. So in a critical literature review, you must have this. This is basically summarize relevant research. Then you evaluate, you establish relationship between different work or research. This is where we have the table that we have just now. Okay, this is where you can see actually the relationship. Then you can show the connection between the research and your work. Then you will select part of research and finding, because based on the literature review, this will be the, what we call it as a support to your proposed solution. For example, I give you Okay, I have read about neural network, I have read about classifier A, I have read about classifier B. And from my reading, I find out that classifier B is the best. So in my methodology, I want to use classifier B. So no one can ask me again why I use classifier B, because I already justify based on my literature review. So literature review is another way of actually justifying the approach that you are taken for your solution. So some guideline for literature review, okay, you have to avoid this. Try not to read everything, because when you start to read everything, you will feel that there's a lot of things that you do not know. It's good to have that humility, okay, supaya kita ni menjadi hambanya yang bersyukur ya. Tapi kita tak nak, we don't want to feel so stupid. Okay, we don't want to feel so stupid. We want to have some kind of, you know, motivation that, okay, I know that I'm not good, therefore I want to read more. We don't want, yeah, I know I'm not good, so I'm doomed, I cannot be good in everything. We don't want that. So that's why, just to share my experience with you, I will read the abstract first. From the abstract, then I will read the conclusion. This is the, I mean, it's very short. Typically, abstract is only 300 words. Conclusion is a little bit longer, but well, from there, I don't have to read the whole paper. I can read that first. If the paper is relevant to me, then only I deep dive, zoom in. But when I zoom in, this is where I have my table. And of course, this is guided by my map. Which one I have not read yet? So tick. So that's why you can actually have a better time management. And then you cannot just read without writing. You have to write. Just scribble. Because when you just read without writing, it's like reading a novel. You can enjoy it, but for a short time, then you start to forget about things. Because remember, you are reading academics materials, and some of them can be very heavy, and it can lead to sleep. So that's why when you start writing, your motor movement will be done. So that's why it will basically excite your brain. Then don't forget to to store your bibliographical information. What is bibliographical information? This is your citation. Who are the authors? What paper? Is it journal? Is it conference? Where it is published? When it is published? Which year? Okay. Why you want to keep this? Because you want to actually access them later. Maybe you already forget when you already read, but if you have a very good list of your sources, you will be easier. And of course, incomplete referencing. What does it mean? When you quote from people, you have to take the exact meaning of it. You cannot take half of it. For example, I like to eat rice. You can paraphrase like this. Dr. Nohasinda from UITM, Shah Alam, like to eat rice. Okay, but you cannot stop. Dr. Nohasinda like to eat, full stop. Eat what? That is incomplete referencing. I may not like to eat vegetables. I just eat rice. So that's why you have to make sure that your referencing is complete so that it will not make the meaning of the reference gone. Okay, so, and we also don't want to have a direct quote. When you have a direct quote, it will be too long. So you have to balancing act. You need to paraphrase because you don't want to take the whole thing, and it must be summarized because we want to actually read a lot more paper. We don't want to just focus on one or two papers only. Okay, more papers means more work. More work means you are hardworking. That is how it reflects to the examiner. So what make a good literature review? Of course, you have to select a good literature for review. Some of the students They don't care. They just find the most what we call it, the least number of pages to read. This can be dangerous. Why? Because typically a good journal would be 20 to 30 pages. Okay, that is a good journal, good quality journal. So you need to find the good quality journal to support your literature review, because otherwise people may question your literature review is not relevant. Okay, and of course the criticism of the literature and interpretation of the literature must be based on your reading. You have to read it carefully, because otherwise it will be just a summary. You cut, paste, and when you start to cut, paste, my dear, it will give you trouble, especially with Turnitin. So in a literature review, okay, these are all the things that should be there. Okay, the overview of subject and objective of the review, analysis of work in favor, work against, work neutral. Okay, they should be clearly divided. Okay, how to actually look at this? As I said, the best way is the table. Have a table, then you arrange them accordingly. This one is supportive, this one is against, and this one is neutral. Then, as I said just now, we can actually base on theme. It can base on a chronological way. So there's a lot of way you can actually use to write your literature review. You have to find the similarity and the differences between the works, because we want to show that where is your work will come in, where is the gap, where your work will come in. And this is basically will give the comparison of different view held by the other authors. And then critique of the methodology and examination of the gap in the research. This we can actually find after we do the comparative table. Of course, we need to evaluate how each study contribute to the argument, and before we can actually summarize the whole literature review by conclusion. So just to give a flavor of available tool in the market. So we have Mendeley. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with Mendeley or not. Okay, this is very useful. Okay, it can actually take the paper and arrange them accordingly. So this is quite easy. Then we also have EndNote. Okay, this is almost like Mendeley. And I think the newest one is Atlas TI. Atlas TI can do a lot more than Mendeley and EndNote. But Atlas TI you have to study so that you can actually utilize the function. But what I'm saying here, okay, this is the references that I take all my content. But what I'm saying here is this. Although you heard about a lot of software that can help you, but the most important part is you as the researcher. You don't want to be the software expert, but you want to be the researcher. Researcher is someone who read a lot, who are able to criticize, and who are able to praise of the solution. Okay, don't rely too much on these tools. I'm not saying not to use it. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying here is that develop on your own skill of speed reading, for example. Then, whether you have tools or you don't have tools, you can do it by your own. You don't have to rely on tools. So these are some references. So before I end my discussion, okay, I would end this sharing session with this word. The key word is Iqra. Why Iqra? You have to read. Okay, you have to read. There's no shortcut of doing literature review. If you think that you are allergic of reading, then I would suggest try not to be allergic to reading. Because in doing literature review, a good literature review, you have to read a lot. There's no shortcut for it. Then I wish you all the best with that. I thank you.
Thank Thank you very much, Professor Nur Haslinda, for the insightful explanations. It's really accurate, actually, about what you have explained about the idea keep changing, and so we don't know where to start and other difficulties. Yeah, actually, honestly, I have faced it until now. And it's awesome that Professor Nur Haslinda gave a simple example how to transform a gossip into literature review. It's really amazing, and it became easy to understand. Yeah, I hope that I and participants here can overcome those difficulties after the insight from you, Professor. Okay, we move on to Q&A sessions. Maybe there are some questions that has been written in chat and link. But before I read those chat, maybe to Mr. Febi Akudi, can you ask directly your questions to Professor Nur Haslinda?
Okay. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks, Professor, for the sharing. This is my question. Actually, now I'm doing something really new for my research, but since it's common in nowadays trend, I have tried hard to read some articles, but I'm still confused with the method I will propose. Because sometimes I found the state of the art from the previous research is just mixing two or more methods, or we can say hybrid methods. Are there any techniques to review literature that just explore or just focus on the methods to overcome our research problem?
Okay, I understand that. Okay, because things keep changing, right? Things keep changing and people start to mix one method to another method. Then they claim that their approach is the best. Is it your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Prof.
So I think Ibu Febi, if I can say this, we cannot cope with the world. We cannot cope with the world. What I'm saying here, we cannot go and search every single similar solution. We cannot. You must have a focus and you must have a stop. Okay. I want to end my literature review, but providing when you want to end, you must have sufficient backup, sufficient what we said. You cannot go and because as time goes by, there will be new approach. When you have new approach, you have to change your proposal. That is not becoming. And when are you going to end your PhD then? So what you should do is that you should have a scope and limitation. Saying that, okay, can you give me your title, please? Microphone, please, on your mic.
Sorry. Actually, the topic, the grand design for my research is about predicting COVID, but it is as a way to measure school reopen safely during pandemic.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, you must have a time frame. So let's say the question is it safe to open the school during pandemic? Is that your question? I mean, is that your problem that you want to solve?
Yes, the first thing that I will do is to predict accurately.
Correct. But
the spread of COVID, yes.
But provided you must have a stop over there, because we cannot actually predict the trend too much, because this is something that unknown. Because COVID is something that we do not know. So whatever data that you have, for example, you have from 2020 up to 2021 April, just use that as your basis. Just use that as your basis. but it may be, it may be not that accurate as you want. It's okay. It's okay. Because the new data will come in, the new variable will come in, the new parameter will come in. So you cannot handle all variable in your equation. You must have a focus. I mean, I would say that, yes, we have tried whatever best that we can to make sure that all parameters are catered, but you must have scope. You must have scope, because otherwise you will never finish your research. And that is dangerous. I assume that you are doing your PhD, right? Your S3.
Yes, I'm doing my S3.
Alhamdulillah. So that's why I said this is always the problem with our S3 candidate, because we are too perfectionists. We want to make sure that our solution is the best, because we want to actually contribute to the world. But Ibu, let me say this, we must scope our work. Otherwise, you will never finish your PhD, because we are not Superman to solve the world's problem. We cannot do that. So we can do whatever we can do at that particular time. That's why, so my advice to you, have a scope. You cannot solve everything. Then I would say that your hair will not turn to gray. You'll be happier then. I hope it helps.
Thank you, Professor Nursalida. But the most I want to know is about how to find the best method, Prof.
The best method, I would say, I will always look at the pivotal papers. Which are the papers that are always being cited? So from there, that is the interest comes in. So in your field, I would suggest go and take a look at the most highly cited paper. I'm sure you have the prominent paper, you have looked at your prominent paper. Then from there, you can actually see how the solution is being made. How the solution is being made. Try to go and take a look at a high impact journal, usually in Elsevier usually. It may be a little bit long to read, but it is very thorough and it can help you in giving the solution. Because if you read short papers, for example, conference paper and so on, the information is not sufficient to actually tell the detail to replicate the experiment. So that's why I would say that go and read longer paper, although it is a little bit more headache, because longer paper means more time you need to actually digest the information, but they provide a lot of information for you to actually replicate the experiment. So if you want to answer your question, how to know what is the best method, I would do that myself. I will go and take a look at the most highly cited paper in that particular field, then I zoom in. So then it will be easier for us. But Ibu, as I said, you have to put a time limit for yourself. Don't, go and read everything, because you are not, you can try to be a Superman. I'm not saying you cannot be, but it will take time. And when you are doing it too long, you start to feel fatigue and you start to lose your motivation. So that is my advice as a senior to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof, for your advice.
Okay, all the best, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nursalida. We move on to second questions. It's about trend from Mr. Ahmad Rizal. Maybe Mr. Ahmad Rizal, can you open your mic?
Yes, I'm here. Dear Professor Nur Haslinda, I would like to ask some question about my research journey. Actually, I want to ask whether if I would like to ask if I'm risking to put an effort to revive a dead trend in a research field. What is the stop sign I should aware of? Actually, it's not a pretty broad research field. Actually, it's a branch of the part of a bigger research field. So I'm trying to find a novelty inside it. But the more I read about paper, the more I know that it's not so much the research on there. But after I tried the Google Trend you recommend before, I found that this is not too good. But actually I got a simple, you know, intuition that this is actually a good field to begin to research with, to find some novelty in that. I would like some advice, Prof. Nur Hasli, in that. Thank you.
Do you mind sharing what is the project that you are doing right now?
Actually, the bigger research field is about beamforming, but I'm trying to insert more implementation about it. It's called virtual small cell. And the more
Okay.
yes.
There's a reason actually. There's a reason why looking at trend is very important, because it means that the interest is waning. People are not interested anymore. That's why there's not much research on that. So Bapak kena hati-hati ya, because when a lot of people start not looking at that direction, it may be, you know, the solution can be difficult. Maybe it is time consuming. So if you want to know what are the sign whether you should stop or not, I think the best person to talk about this is your supervisors, I would say, because he or she will know it better, because he can give you better suggestion. But if you ask me, as an individual, I would say that typically I will take a look at the trend. If there's not much trend, I mean not much interest, because at the end of the day, you are trying to solve a problem. You want to sell your solution to the community, to the industry. And if nobody is interested, why bother? So that is my suggestion. So Bapak harus, that's why I said you have to be very cautious, because I think you are doing your PhD right now, right?
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. So because if you want to do your PhD, you want to make sure that your PhD will garner a lot of interest, because you want to use your PhD to make more PhD holder afterwards. If it dies at you, how are you going to have another, you know, next generation of PhDs? So be careful. If the trend is not good, maybe I would say talk to the expert in your field. How to talk to them? Sometimes just email will be the best. Just email. Most of the good researcher will respond. Okay, but before you claim saying that that field is bad, you have to take a look at the papers. How many papers are generated for that topic?
Yes, at least I have read 10 of 12. Maybe I will try to find more again. Actually,
Yeah.
it's not that it's maybe it's not too noisy inside of it's quiet.
Yes, because sometimes why people are not interested, sometimes because it is too difficult. When it is too difficult, people are not interested. But there's one word ya, kadang-kadang yang paling susah dicari tu yang paling berharga. So be careful to say that whatever that you want, you know, is dead, is not interesting. Be careful, because as I said, sometimes the least people working on it, the better you are, because you will be the expert in that particular field. For example, during my time, effective computing is not popular. I get my PhD in 2013. And at that time, nobody is talking about effective computing. People said that I'm crazy doing emotion and computer. I mean, why you want to do that? At that particular time, because that time multidisciplinary field is not popular yet. Not right now. Now is multidiscipline. Now everybody is doing sentiment. In 2013, no one looked at sentiment. Only, I mean, me and my supervisors and my colleague are using emotion in computer. And at that moment, people are questioning, you are in computer science. Why are you looking at psychologists? Why are you looking at the emotion? Why are you looking at stress? But you have to have perseverance. You believe in it, then you go forward. And right now, Alhamdulillah, whatever that my finding is correct. People are talking about mental health right now. Even in SDG, UN, United Nations are talking about SDG in goal 3. So what I'm saying here is that before, nobody is talking about mental health, but now everybody is talking about stress. So what I'm saying here is that, Bapak, sometimes you have to have perseverance. If you believe that your title is correct, you think that it can contribute to the ummah, contribute to the community, go. So that is my word. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Prof. That's very motivating.
Inshallah,
It's
inshallah.
inspiring. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ahmad. Yeah, actually about sustainability of research is very important. And then sometimes we can't predict how long this research can be last. In your experience, Professor Nur Haslinda, maybe how long of one topic can be last?
Actually, in research, okay, this is just sharing session, yeah.
Yes.
In research, there is no lifespan. As long as the problem is there, you need solution. So, as I said, it doesn't matter if other people are looking at it or only you are looking at it. As long as there is a problem, it needs to be solved. And because of it need to be solved, we need to have different kind of solution. So my solution and your solution may be different, but we are trying to cater for the same problem. So, can you predict? Yeah, that is where we have trend. This is where we have big data analytics. So by doing this trend analysis and so on, you can actually rule the field. But what I'm saying here is that, as I said, sometimes the most important part is to believe in yourself. You know that this is something that you need to do. Although people say that, well, you are wasting your time, you may not get your PhD at all. Why don't you do something else? This is just a waste of time. Perseverance. Because PhD is 99% of perspiration and 1% of motivation. You have to work hard. So as I said, like my conclusion just now, Iqra, you have to read. There is no shortcut. You have to read. And if there is not enough reading, you have to read more. So although I sounds very, very, very funny saying that, but this is what I've learned myself. There is no shortcut. No matter how many tools I have to help me doing my literature review, it doesn't help at all. It made me confused. So that's why in my talk, I would like to advise, go back to the basic, read. There's no shortcut about it. I hope it answer your question, Ibu.
Yes, thank you, Professor Nur Haslinda. And then there is a questions from Mr. Edi Karyono Putro. May I ask Mr. Edi to open your mic? Or...
All right. Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Assalamualaikum.
It's glad to to have you in this forum, and definitely it is very beneficial for all of us. Yeah, my questions would be relevant to: is there any limitations of the journals or maybe articles that is published in the Elsevier or maybe Scopus or Webboss that basically going to be the basis of the literature review? Because my promoter is saying to me that literature review is a minimum 20 journals or articles.
Oh, 20 is too small.
Okay.
20 is too small. Okay, let me tell you. You want to talk about a concept. Give me your title. Then I can give you how many papers actually. I can predict how many papers you have to read.
Yeah, my project is about the noise mapping at the industrial sector, especially at the mining processing, mineral processing. You know, actually in the industry, noise mapping is basically very limited. Number of the noise studies is basically more toward the traffic and then industrial complex, but not necessarily in the, like a mineral processing. So it's more toward on that sector rather than it is on the ore mineral processing.
Okay, I get it. First, you have to talk about noise. What are the limitations of human listening? That is easily, I would say, more than 10. Just noise itself. Why noise is important? Because human has different level of noise tolerance. So that's why, what kind of tolerance are we talking about? Then you can also relate to what would be the effect of noise. Mental health, physical health as well, stress induced. So that is another field that you can explore. Then you want to take a look at what are the differences between noise in workplace and noise at home. Is there any differences? Then you want to also look at how can noise be captured. Of course, you are using microphone, but what kind of microphone can be used? What kind of setup can be used? Maybe can it be, is it possible to use a video data or just audio data? Would the accuracy will be increased if you basically have multiple microphones, for example? So then I'm not talking about industry itself. For example, we have the hard industry, the one that may created cement, for example. Or maybe we have the noise in hospital. That is also can be considered as industry at school. So how can this noise impact us? So if you just focus on noise mapping in industry, it may not be a lot because not many people doing it. But when you open it up a bit, for example, you take a look at noise level in traffic light. Traffic you said just now. Maybe noise in school, for example. You open it and then you compare with the industry. Industry, you have to be very specific. What kind of industry? Is it manufacturing? Or then if it is manufacturing, what kind of manufacturing are you talking about? So that's a lot actually. You are actually opening a Pandora box that if you said that there's not many paper to read, I'm worried that you are actually looking at more work to read actually. Because industry got a lot of type. What type of industry are you talking about? You cannot just very parochial looking at one. Is it manufacturing? If it is manufacturing, what kind of manufacturing are you looking at? I see. So it's a lot of things that you can actually read. The matter is only want to read or not to read.
Yeah, noted, Prof. Thank you very much.
Okay,
right.
But 20 is not enough. 20 is not
20
enough.
is definitely not enough because this field is basically very, very wide.
Yes, because when you talk about noise, another thing that you may want to actually look at, because I am doing speech, so I know a bit of noise. Noise cancellation. Maybe you want to look at it as well. Okay. Hope it helps.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Mr. Eddie and Prof. Nurhaslinda. And in the chat box, there is a question from Mr. Mahmud Ahmad. It's about time. Maybe Mr. Mahmud, do you want to open your mic? Are they Mr. Mahmud? Okay, I will read it for Professor Nurhaslinda. What is recommendation that how much time should be spent on literature review during PhD studies?
Oh, okay. This is interesting. based on my experience, yeah, in NTU in Nanyang, I have to sit for qualification exam. I'm not sure in ITS whether you have qualification exam or not, but in Singapore we have qualification exam where I have to take a certain subject. I have to score at least B. Then I have to actually produce preliminary results. I have to actually present them to the panel. If they agree, then only I will be considered as PhD student. Otherwise, I will be called PhD candidature, PhD candidate. If I pass my examination, then only I will be called PhD student. Then after I finish my research and whatnot, then only I be called a doctor. Okay, but that is how the system in Singapore. So if you ask me, how long should you spend on literature review? Actually, I would say your whole PhD you should read and improvise your literature review. Why I'm saying this is that because things change. You start your PhD in 2000, let's say you start your PhD in 2020, then 3 years down the road, things change. 2020, you may have iPhone Boba. You have 3 camera. 3 years down the road, you may have 6 cameras. So whatever your solution is no longer, practical anymore. So I would say that you have to improve your literature review until the day you submit your thesis. Of course, it sounds a very high order, tall order actually. How can I read this like forever? Well, my dear, that is the reality of the situation. Because whatever you read 3 years before may not be able to be used now. It may, imagine, let's say you are having your kids. So just giving birth and 3 years, there's a lot of things that change, right? Before no teeth, now full of teeth, start talking, start, before just crying, now start demanding. So this kind of thing change. You before without gray hair, now you start to have a full set of gray hair. So that's why I said things change. So if you ask me, the most time you should really spend on doing LR is a year. But after that, you have to maintain, or I would say you have to upgrade depending on the changes. But don't take too long. When I say don't take too long means that you have to have a cut-off time. When are you going to start your experiment? Because you cannot read, it will never stop. So you must have a cut date time. I would suggest a year. Then you start to have your own experiment. Then you will feel better. I start publishing after my first year. Then I just produce. I don't have that much publication. You can go and search my name actually. But I start after a year of my PhD. Not within 1 year. 1 year I just spend on understanding the problem, what kind of other solution other people are doing, just to get familiarized with the field. Because if you do too short, your learning curve would be too stiff. So it may give you headache. So I would suggest a year would be good, but no more. No more. Right?
Okay, thank you, Prof. But when we decided to continue our PhD studies, we must write a proposal.
Correct. Yeah.
And then we must literature review first, and then when we got the supervisor, sometimes the topic that professor the topic that professor offer us is different than our proposal.
Okay, I get you. Okay. This is where you have to use your skill to convince your supervisors that your title is good. That's why literature review is very important, because you have shown, look, Prof, ABC said that my approach may be feasible. So it is a very difficult, I mean, I would say that it's a very thin line to sound so assertive and proactive, and then to sound boastful to your supervisors. So you have to, step carefully. We don't want to step on our supervisors, because at that time we are very young, right? We do not know him or her that well. So you cannot be too forceful, but yet you cannot just not to whatever he or she said. You must have your own backbone, saying that, no, I want to do this. This is my PhD. You must have that attitude as well. So if, let's say, your supervisor may advise you to something else, bear in mind, supervisors' function is just to advise. They cannot force you doing what you don't want, but you have to tell them nicely, saying that, hello, Prof, I want to do this because of I have studied, these are the literature review, these are the evidence saying that this solution may be feasible. See, the tonation is different. Rather than say, no, Prof, I don't want, I don't care, this is my PhD, it's different, right? Rather than saying like this, Prof, I think based on this literature review, I found that other researchers as also looking at this, and the trend looking are increasing rather than downsizing. So I think that this solution may be feasible. So adalah what we call it budi bicara di situ lah. Because bear in mind, supervisor is not always right, and students are not always wrong. We are doing our PhD, so we must be the expert in our field. So I mean, that is my belief, because I also, I think this is not good, but well, that is how I study. I always discuss with my supervisor. Sometimes we argue, but we argue professionally. Because at the end of the day, the PhD is mine, is based on my effort. My supervisors is there to help me, to guide me, because he is the expert. But the work, you have to do it yourself. You cannot, let's say if you do not get your PhD, you cannot say that, this is because my supervisors. No. If you don't get your PhD, it's because of you. It's not because of your supervisors.
Yes.
So you should own that PhD. That is yours. That is given. No matter what people say, it's you who write the thesis. It's you who do the experiment. It's you who cry late at night. It's you who jumping up and down when your paper get accepted in journal. It's you. It's not your supervisors. So be proud. Be positive about it. I hope that everyone will be, very, very positive about your PhD, because for me, I enjoy doing PhD. I wish that I can do PhD again, so I don't have to work. That is my personal opinion, because I enjoy doing PhD. Because I think doing PhD gives me freedom to do research, to read a lot, to do whatever I want to. Because you are basically the independent researcher. You don't have to rely on other people. If you don't publish, it's not because of anything, it's because of you are not making time. But now when you are working, you have any other responsibility. I have class to attend. I have meeting to go. So I don't have time to sit down like my PhD days, where the only thing that I have to think is research. So that is something that I miss. I hope that those who are doing your PhD, seize the day. This is the best time of your life. I'm not saying for master and FYP, doing project is the best, especially when you get the solution. That is the best feeling. When you get the solution, you will feel that you are the most intelligent person in the world. The same feeling if your paper got accepted. You feel that, Alhamdulillah. I tell you, you try it. You send your papers to the journal. Once it get accepted, wow, I tell you, you will feel fantastic. And I hope you will feel that.
Thank you very much, Professor Noraslinda. Yeah, thank you for your spirit and advices. I hope I can have your spirit too in my PhD studies.
Inshallah, inshallah.
It's 20 minutes before iftar or breakfasting time. So we are in the end of our sessions. Thank you for participants who eager to ask to our speaker, and thank you to our speakers, Professor Nur Haslinda, for the spirit and the insightful explanations. And then last, thank you to our committee here who has organized this event. I'm sorry for my mistake as a moderator and for the inconvenience. I will give back the microphone to Master of Ceremony. Thank you, Professor Nur Haslinda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nur Haslinda, for the excellent lecture today. And thank you too for Bu Aida for conducting this amazing session. And please give applause to Professor Nur Haslinda and Bu Aida by using the Zoom reaction feature for today's amazing session. Okay, thank you everyone. Furthermore, we would like to present a certificate awarding for our honorable speaker and moderator. Okay, we waited for the share screen. Okay, the first is Certificate of Appreciation for Professor Nur Haslinda as our speaker today. Thank you very much, Professor. And the second one is the Certificate of Appreciation for Bu Aida as our moderator today. Okay, once again, thank you very much for our speaker and moderator for availability on today's session. Before we end today's session, we invite you all participants, as well as the honorable speaker and moderator, to take a group photo. So for the participants, please open your camera. Okay, we're waiting for some participants to open your camera. Now I will start counting down, so please give us your best and sweetest smile. I will count in 1, 2, and 3. Smile. Okay, maybe the next page. I will count again. In 1, 2, and 3. Smile. Okay, maybe we can go to the last page. I'll count again in 1, 2, and 3. Smile. Great. Now we've finished the group photo. Then for the participants, please fill the feedback form through the link bit.ly/feedback R2SEP 2021 that you can also see in the Zoom chat room. We want to remind you the participants who will get this stamp for it is the participant who come on time, join this event until the end, and also fill the feedback form. Finally, we have reached the end of today's R2SEP, and we sincerely apologize for any mistakes we may have made in presenting as Master of Ceremony and Committee. Thank you very much for Professor Nur Haslinda, for Bu Aida, and also all participants for the attention and cooperation. And before we part, I would like to inform you that we still have several future agendas in R2SEP. You can see it on the poster we are showing you right now, or you can check it in ITS Global Engagement website later. We will see you in the next session in the next 2 weeks with the theme Common Research Methodology in Your Field that will be delivered by Dr. Chin Longwei from University Malaysia Perlis that will be conducted on 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, 29 April 2021. Once again, thank you very much for everyone for today's session. Good evening and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Professor Nur
Thank you, Professor Nur Haslinda.
Thank you, Prof.
I
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, once again, thank you, Professor Nur Haslinda and Bu Aida, and also all committee and participants who have participated today. Please allow me to end the meeting in 3, 2, 1. Thank you.